There he is. Got another episode of Hillsborough and Hunterdon Real. I'm here with my longtime and really good friend, Craig Risoli. We grew up together. Probably known each other since about 7 or 8 years old. Probably right when
Yeah, it's 30 years plus for us now.
it
Showing,
is.
yeah, we both get close. You see the grays in the beard and
It all
the hair, stuff like that. Yeah,
So first, thanks for being with us, buddy.
awesome, man. I'm jacked to be here.
Yeah, and I've been looking forward to doing this one because the idea, guys, right? If you've been following these podcasts, is to highlight the local experts and inspirations. Really, because a lot of times people are inspired by people that they don't have any connection to, and they don't know how to get in touch with. So, Craig, we hadn't talked in I don't know, a while, and then I don't know, it was probably 4 years ago. Was it 4 years ago now?
Yep.
He reached out to me and we had a very nice a few conversations. So before we dive into that, right, why don't you just tell people where you're living now, tell us a little bit about your family, and then we'll go from there.
Yep. We recently just moved out of Hillsborough, the Neshannock area of Hillsborough, into Stockton, which is kind of right across 202, 15 minutes away. For those of you that are local to Hillsborough, Hunterdon, and know the area and things along those lines, we just made the big life milestone of moving into the dream house. We'll get around to what kind of got us there and that vehicle, but yeah, we've got, let's see, my wife and I have been together. We've known each other, since junior high. She's from Hillsborough area as well. We've been married for 9 years, been together 16 years plus, something along those lines. 3 kids, 7 and under. So, Kyle and I have been trading off who's having kids at what point. But busy.
Yeah, that's great, man. Okay. So yeah, you're making the dream happen. You're living the dream, man. So let's talk about when we had this conversation. So what were you doing about 5 years ago? What was your life like as far as career?
I was the senior director of project management for $1 billion bath and kitchen company. Engineering, project management, things along those lines, bringing new product development, bringing products from design through fruition, manufacturing into market, etc. I was also working, I'm going to quote and say part-time. I was a reservist or National Guard member, New Jersey Army National Guard. So I had been about 4 or 5 years into that career. And those of you that are doing some math, yes, I joined the Army very late in life, fulfilling a dream and making sure there was no life regret, but something I always wanted to do. So at 30 years old, I joined the Army National Guard there. So I was into those two careers there. I was probably about 12, 13 years with that corporate American company, and about 4 or 5 years into my military career at that point.
And that's very timely because that was going to be the next question about the military.
Yeah. Well, to add on to that, because we might as well just put the extra stuff on his shoulders with a 3 and a 1-year-old as well. So
yeah, at the time when geez, that's crazy. So
yeah.
what was that? So that was something you didn't want to have as a regret. What was it that made you want to serve?
Oh, this goes way back. My grandfather was a World War II POW. So I was around a lot of stories, spent a lot of time with my grandfather, definitely a life idol of mine. Saw the goods and the bad things that came out of that. More good than bad, thankfully. And just always had that passion of being outside in the woods. I was a very outdoorsy kid, always playing with the GI Joes, always dressing up, in camouflage. That translated into being an outdoorsman and hunting, tactical stuff, shooting sports, things like that. And I always thought it was like a natural progression. I was eventually going to go that route, but at 17, 18, I was pushed in a different direction to, hey, I had 2 parents that never went to college. So it was important for their kids. It was their American dream to help them get through college. So I got on the path of going to college and getting a 4-year degree, and military just kind of got pushed aside. So, that was something that had always wanted to be within me, giving back, taking care of others that can't take care of themselves. This is stuff that was kind of ingrained through my upbringing. Whether it's my parents, my grandparents, things along those lines, just had that selfless service that was ingrained in me. So, I had a couple buddies that were in the military, and I was just on a different path. That's all. But I had visited joining the military several times during that career, but I could never pull, jump off the cliff, take that step off the cliff, pull the trigger on taking that next step to actually sign a piece of paper, to completely change my life at that point, to step off of the successful career and career path and ladder that I was on, accelerating through. So I kept pushing it aside until one day, it was a gut feeling that just stayed within me. And my fiance at the time, or actually, I think we were married at the time, actually. She said, "Don't let me be a life regret. Don't let your job be a life regret. Go do what you were meant to do, and we'll figure it out from there." And at that point, I went and signed papers to go sign up for the military with the U.S. Army at 30 years old. I was kind of an old man at that time.
Yeah,
So.
well, there's a lot of lessons just in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of stuff right there. But so you signed on with them. What was the commitment like as far as how many years you're looking at? How often you're reporting?
Yep.
For duty and whatnot. Talk about that.
Yep. So I decided to join the reserves or the National Guard because it was, as I saying again, a part-time position. A lot of things you see on TV, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, which is completely not true. But I signed up for that not because it was a part-time, but because it wouldn't disrupt my family's life or my wife's life specifically as much. If I were to sign on to active duty military, full-time military, then they would place me after boot camp at the needs of the military, wherever they would need you. That could be Washington State, that could be Korea, that could be Germany. And I didn't want to disrupt her career path as much. And I also wanted to serve my local community. If I were to sign up for active duty military, it's you're training to basically go overseas to prevent terrorism from coming into the United States. When you sign up for the National Guard, you actually answer to the governor of the state, and your first mission is to the state's needs, whether it's a state of emergency or to terrorism prevention within the state itself. And then you can be called to active orders, such as a lot of people know that the National Guard and reservists go overseas a lot as well. So, I also wanted to serve my local community, still living at that time in the town I grew up in. So I was very much, tied to New Jersey. So I decided to join the Army National Guard, which, like I said, was 1 weekend, 2 months a year, or I'm sorry, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. But what I quickly found out was when you're good at what you do, they want to keep sending you out places and keep sending you to get more training and do stuff like that. So let alone boot camp that I went through, I succeeded in boot camp. They sent me right on to Airborne School. I earned a slot at Airborne School by becoming, I took the PT honors at boot camp, which means that I was the most physically fit person there by their standards, which was kind of an accomplishment for a 30-year-old guy when the average age is probably around 17 to 24. Something like that. These were guys that were going through boot camp. These were guys that had contracts to go on to Army Rangers, Special Forces, and stuff like that. And the old man from New Jersey came in and said, I can do this too. So I went to Airborne School from there. And then when I came back to my unit, they were like, "Oh, this guy's he's a little bit older. He's squared away. We're going to start sending you out to this training, that training." My first year on the books, I had 120 days military service. For part-time military. Now you guys do the math on how much that is per year. That's a lot. So, which was a bit different than what I thought it would be and how much time commitment, which also translated into a realization and how do I want to phrase it? My corporate job, not realizing I would be away that much as well. So, that would then translate into, things starting to not go as planned as they were before in the corporate job, which we can probably get into next.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into that in 1 sec. I don't know if I knew that. See, talk just quickly about the Airborne School.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you jumping out of planes?
Yeah, I jumped out of a plane 5 times. Yep.
Okay. I don't think I knew that.
Yep. Three week. It's a 3-week course. They basically teach you how to land without injuring yourself, how to land properly. So, jumping out of the plane can be the hardest and easiest thing. It's landing properly. and they call it I believe, and I'm trying to remember now 10 years later, but a 12-point PLF, or a parachute landing fall, where you land or fall a specific way, starting with hitting your ankles first and then flopping on your side and then rolling out of it so that you don't hit yourself. Because even though you're coming down with a parachute, this is not this is a round parachute or a square parachute, not the rectangle versions where you can direct your landing. This is, you're going to land where the wind takes you, and whatever ground you actually land on, based on the calculations of how high you were, the wind speed, how low the plane dropped you, and how fast you were going, things along those lines.
So you
So,
jumped 5 times.
yep.
Uh, how do they train you for the first one? Like, I mean, you can't simulate it. I mean,
Yeah, actually you can simulate it. So what we did was, the first week was basically called ground week, which is you learn how to fall on the ground, and then you take a step up, like think of your jumping boxes, right? You then jump off of there and you land and you fall down, and you do that for a whole week straight until you perfect all those key points and those 12 spots that you're supposed to hit, and roll out of it, and what you're supposed to do, and letting go of your parachute so it doesn't drag you on the ground, and all that. So you go through all those fundamentals on the ground, and then you go into week 2, which is basically you jump out of a 34-foot simulated airplane, which is attached to a guide wire. So it's kind of like zip lining. But there's a mathematical or statistical equation that basically says that at 34 feet, the fear of heights is actually triggered in your mind. They've done research and tests on that. So they have a simulated airplane, and door there, and then you latch on, and then you jump out of the airplane, and that gets you used to the fear, or getting over the fear of literally jumping or free falling. So you jump, and there's about 3 seconds where you free fall before the guide wire connects, or the tension is brought into the guide wire, and then you basically zip line down. And then the last week is the jump week, where you get into the airplane, you go up on a C-130 or C-117, and you go through your SOP of what you're supposed to do, and latching on, and the safety checks, and then following the guy in front of you, unless you're the first guy, which I was. On I think my first jump, I was the first guy, just how you lined up, so you're the first one to go out.
how high up were you guys?
1,200 feet, I think, was where we're at. About 1,200 feet, I believe, is for practice. The actual real static line jumping, they call this. This isn't free fall parachuting. This is static line, which means that your parachute is connected by a tether to a guide line in the airplane. As soon as you come out, it automatically deploys your parachute, and it takes about again, going back about 10 years now, somewhere around 4 to 6 seconds for your parachute to actually catch wind. So you free fall for about 4 to 6 seconds, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit longer, until your parachute actually opens up, and then you float down. But yeah, it automatically deploys your parachute for you on that guideline, that tether.
Very interesting, man. I don't know how I didn't know that.
Yep. So it's fun. It was a good time. I never had a fear of jumping, out of the airplane. I mean, like I said, most of the time you literally, during that training leading up to it, in the simulated training, you're broken down and built up back again with this SOP of what you're supposed to do at what point and when, and what's going on in your head, what you should be counting, and stuff along those lines. So it's very just follow the process. So follow the guy in front of you, step out, do what you're supposed to do, type thing.
And I think that's a perfect segue talking about the actual very real physical fear that people can have doing something like that, to when you started getting this seed in your head that, hey, you know what, I might want to leave the corporate world.
Mhm.
Right? I know there's a lot of fear for people when they do that. So kind of talk about
Mhm.
that next part of your life. Then we'll talk about the fear mindset and how this training prepared you for that. So when did that first hit your gut, and when did you bring it up to Haley and say, you know what, I think I might, talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say the typical entrepreneur story where, it never sat right. I was always looking for a side hustle. I was looking, nothing ever felt exactly right. Even going back into college, I think the end of college, I was starting to get fed up with just college in general. I went for a mechanical engineering degree, which is an extremely tough major to go down, right? 22, 24 credits a semester and, things along those lines, and heavy math. And I was starting to get burnt out, and I was already looking for things to do. But even prior to that, I had always had a side hustle or doing something to try to make money, whether it was selling stuff on eBay or Craigslist that came out, flipping items, or, cutting lawns and, et cetera, whatever I could do, plowing driveways and shoveling snow, always something on the side. So that entrepreneurial aspect was always kind of built in, even going back to my grandfather, who I mentioned before, who was a product of the Depression as well, taught us kids at a young age on how to garden, and not just garden, but how to make a business out of gardening and selling plants and vegetables and buying low, seeds, selling high for stuff when it's already profitable. And we ran a legit business, my brother, my sister, and my grandparents, to the point where we actually ran meetings, at the beginning of the year, end of the year, and, legit Robertson's rules, I think they were called, right? I first this, I second that, and at 10 years old, I'm being taught, you know, very, very basic fundamentals on how to run a business,
Yeah.
how to collect money, how to take that money and put it into, future, supplies for the next year and things along those lines. So that's stuff that was kind of bred into me. My grandfather's point on doing that was basically him being a product of the Depression, was if you can learn how to garden, you can learn how to vegetable. One, you can, sustain yourself. You'll never go hungry, right? You can always sustain yourself with doing vegetables. I mean, he ate dandelions, when he was in internment camps during World War II, right? People thought he was going crazy. He's going, no, you don't eat the flower, you eat the leaves, which is high in all these vitamins, dandelion leaves. So people thought he was crazy, and he was saving lives telling people this, right? So that passed on to his grandkids, to us, saying you can eat this stuff, you can live off the land, right? So that was one. Two is you don't always have to depend on someone else to pay your bills. You can be successful sustaining yourself and your family, through your own business, through doing your own thing. And it doesn't have to be gardening, it doesn't have to be that, but he was teaching us the fundamentals of, hey, you can do something to make some money on the side, or, just yourself to do that. So I want to say that was very instrumental on kickstarting, or
Yeah.
say the entrepreneurial feeling, or the always in the back of my head, like there's other things to do besides, go join corporate America. And I'm not downplaying corporate America. It was very good to me. I learned a lot during corporate America that I'm implementing now into my business, and always have. If I didn't have that foundation, I don't think I would be as successful that I am now on the stuff that I learned during those 12, 13 years. But I'm just saying that it never, being in corporate, or what some people call the rat race, was never comfortable for me. I always felt like there was something else. There was something more. So coming back to your question that you said, when I started talking to Haley, I'd always talk to Haley, like there's something else out there. I want to do something else, but I had a great job. I had security. I had health benefits. I was making good money. I was successful in everyone's own eyes except my own, because I knew deep down inside I wasn't happy, right? So the military aspect of that, I thought, would fulfill part of that happiness. I'll do this on the side, the military, to fulfill the excitement of me just being a corporate lackey. And I don't want to say these things derogatory. This is just how I viewed myself, right? So, I did that until the point where that wasn't fulfilling. The military stuff wasn't fulfilling. And I was very, very good at what I was doing in the military at the time, and going to airborne school and air assault school and rappelling out of helicopters. I was doing a lot of exciting shit, right? But I wasn't, and then I do that, and then I'd have to transition back into a civilian role for Monday morning, and transition back in from Sergeant Risoli to dad, which was also a lot of trouble on Monday mornings, or Sunday nights when I came home, whatever it was when I came home. There's a lot of that transition where it started to, to fade into each other, and had some trouble separating those things. But, the corporate job just got to that point where I was taking time off for military leave, which was allowed, which legally, the corporate company couldn't really do anything about. There's federal laws to protect the employment of part-time military or reservists. USERA, these are all acronyms, USERA, ESGR, and things like that protect those. However, they can protect your employment to a certain point. What I mean by that is they can start, you're taking so much time off for military, you're not getting as much done, or you're becoming a hindrance to that corporate company, such as, hey, I got to go away for 2 weeks. Someone's got to pick up my slack. And I understand that, right? I get it. Or these projects aren't getting done. because I had to go away for a long weekend or this week, and then I had to come back for 2 weeks and I had to go away for another 4 days for military service or whatever. They started to view those as performance-based issues, which there's probably a gray area in there and some probably crossover, more so than others. But I started to suffer in performance essentially, where where I was always a performer. As you can kind of tell how I'm talking here, I was usually good at what I was doing when I set my mind to it. If I want to get something done, it would get done. And then I started to get to the point where things weren't getting done, which would weigh on me mentally, which would weigh on me emotionally, which would weigh on me, stress, anxiety. I'm starting to get flack at work for not doing stuff. And this is all stuff that I encountered basically for the first time in my life. And I would bring that stress home and not knowingly take it out on the family, just snappy or, raise my voice or pull away, separate, things along those lines. And I started to have some self-awareness based around those things and said that this was not how things were meant to be. This is not how life should be. And I started to have some realizations that I need to go find something else to make me happy again, essentially. And I had thought about at that point, hey, maybe I'll join the full-time military. But then again, I'd have to not just pick up my wife and move her. She had a solid career locally as a teacher, and same thing, excelling through the roles and getting her master's degree and stuff like that. And now with a 3 and a 1-year-old at that point, or maybe a 2 and just had the newborn. But it something was coming to a point essentially where something needed to change. And what was presented to me in a weird way was I was put on a performance improvement plan for my corporate position, which caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting it. I knew I was having a little trouble, but for the first time ever, during an annual review, they were like, you did not perform. And because of that, we're putting you on a performance improvement plan. And for any of the corporate people out there that know, that is basically your warning to, we're going to let you go next.
Yeah.
That's their legal liability they got to give to you before they give you a 2-week notice. So, at that point, I was already visiting some things like doing something on my own. I just didn't know what that would be until I started going deeper into finding something else to do. So
Sure.
that was a lot. I apologize.
No, that's good, man. It gives people the inspiration, the background. And then, I know like I said, I think it was 4 years ago, we had.
It was right at this time that I connected with you. I listened, and everyone that listens to Kyle here knows that he has Ulysses, Unlocking Your Inner Strength podcasts and other stuff going on and love coaching, things like that. And I was like, who do I know locally that could help me maybe through this thoughts that are in my head of what I should do next? And I was like, hey, he's right in front of me. So reach out to Kyle. Hey man, want to sit down for a coffee? Sure. 6 a.m. Saturday morning. I only wake up that early on Saturday mornings for military. I don't know, bro. But, came in with a couple coffees and we chatted it out. So
Yeah. And, from your memory, what was it that because from what I recall, you were really just looking for, I don't want to say permission, but yeah, you're right, essentially.
I mean, that later on we come to realize like that's actually what it was, right? I was trying to figure out what to do next. And at this point where we were talking, I already had an idea of what to do. And there's things that led up to that idea and whatnot, but it was to develop a product that I could sell through Amazon, because I'd come across a business model on how to do that. And through my background in new product development, I was already in the process of putting something together. I had an idea and we were just starting that out. I was coming to Kyle like, hey man, what do you think? You got out of, your job, you're following your passion, you're doing this. And we hashed it out in 5, 6, 7, what's really important, what's there to lose. So we went through, it's not just a split decision. It's not I want to take that back. When it comes down to it, it is a split decision.
Yeah.
It's just a choice. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But there is things that I was trying to build around it, a safety system or a fallback or a calculated risk that I needed as an engineer at just how my brain worked in order to get permission, say, yes, I think you have things lined up enough, and to fallback that. If you take that step forward, there's still other stuff to go on. There's still things you can do, but realize all the upside. So as Tony Robbins always says, and we've talked about in the past, is, everyone, whatever you do in life, you're either trying to gain pleasure or avoid pain.
Mhm.
And I was trying to avoid pain out of a toxic corporate career that I was trying to leave, but also gain pleasure into the possibilities of, yes, I realize there's a lot of other stuff out there and where this could go. So chase that pleasure as well. So I had that kind of mixture going on there. And after several sit downs with you, Kyle, I mean, I essentially got that permission. I already had the permission from my wife. I had already broken down and cried in front of my wife.
Mhm.
I had already said, I'd rather go pump gas than do this. And there's nothing the matter with pumping gas. What I'm saying is that there is a big disparity in pay that I was willing to take
Sure.
in order to get out of there and move my life forward.
Yeah.
And at that point, I don't want to say I hit rock bottom or anything like that. I wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't turn to drugs, anything along those lines. I didn't have a vice. It was just, I knew something needed to change. So I was presented an opportunity. By what I mean, I was presented is I found one. I went out and looked. I searched. I researched, and through blogs and books and things along those lines, I came up with an idea for a product that I could launch on Amazon at that time and develop a brand around it, which I'll also jump into it now, which is now called High Speed Daddy,
Yeah.
where we sell the most badass and awesome baby gear on the planet for cool dads.
Yeah. It is. It's such a great story. So before we even get into the
Yeah,
concept,
yeah, absolutely.
came up with that. It was probably as you're going through it felt like a long time, but
Yeah,
the outsider was relatively quick when we had
yeah.
that first meeting because you had, like you said, your analytical brain, you had stuff already kind of planned out, and then
Hmm.
it was just a matter of you kept taking action on the stuff you had
Hmm.
written. So I want
Hmm.
to do this. Let me figure. You had planned it out. You took action, and it was relatively quick from that first meeting, I believe. But it took before you resigned. Like, how long was it before
I
you?
think we met in middle of August or so of 2016, give or take. Um, at that point, like I just come up with like the business name, the product. I was starting to get into the prototyping phase, reaching out to suppliers, doing things along those lines, aligning things up with like some version of a website, locking up a Facebook handle, Instagram, things like that. And this wasn't stuff that I was just like, oh, I have to do this. I was following a system
Yeah.
that others laid out before me. I was just modeling what others before me had done and putting my touch on it and my twist or my experience in new product development, and where people would have trouble, like, where do I go to find out how to find someone to make this for me, or do I have to make it myself? Like, I had that experience on talking to suppliers, negotiating, and stuff like that. And this is stuff that everyone that doesn't have that previous college or industry experience, like this, people have found out how to do this stuff and are much more successful than I am. But I just had a little bit of kickstart on that to be able to know where to go and how to do things. But yeah, it was probably around August. By October, I left my position right around October 1st, I believe, of that same year,
Yeah.
without even having sold a product at that point. Everything was still in prototype and development phase, but I had had enough. I knew that if I continued down that route, things would still be stressful. And I decided to, as Cortez did in the islands, and stuff, like I burned the ships to win the war.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing else. I used it as motivation. Now I could have easily, where things were going with the corporate job and being in the military and a 3 and a 1-year-old and this and that, I probably would have gotten laid off. Just I saw the writing on the wall. Now the good thing to that is if I continued down that route and I got let go, I would have had a severance. I would have been able to collect unemployment, and I would have had a financial foundation to build things off of. And if I had to do it again, I probably should have gone down that route. But I wouldn't have had the certain motivation that I did to make things work. So it's a trade-off, right? So it works like that. I knew like I had to make this work. I had some other things that were going on, and I was working cash jobs, and I was cleaning gutters, and I was doing dump clean outs, house clean outs, and I was plowing snow all hours of the night. And the benefit to a lot of the stuff that I was doing and me leaving corporate America, my wife being a full-time teacher and stuff like that, is I got to become a stay-at-home dad,
Yeah.
which was awesome, which was also part of the design, part of the plan, that I had a 3 and a 1-year-old that, whereas I wasn't watching them full 8 hours a day, but I was running them around. I was dropping them off at daycare. I was picking them up, dropping them off at grandma's who was helping me out with that. We would divide and conquer, but I would get a 2-hour work block in here, a 2-hour work block in there. I'd wake up early and fill my mind with positivity and exercise, and then, do the work blocks and do the kids things and spend the afternoon with the kids. And then, kids would go to sleep, and then I would work again until I did the Gary Vaynerchuk thing, and I would have my second job. And from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. every night, until I couldn't keep my eyes open, I would do that because I was in the hustle phase, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing for all those months up until I launched our first product, which was February of 2017. So I was making ends meet. I was still working military part-time. We had cut back on our expenses. We were still able to pay bills. We were working all that correctly. And then we launched our first product in February.
And I think some of the keys that I want people to pick up on from that is, guys, to create anything takes a tremendous amount of energy. So you hear the hours that Craig was putting in as far as hustling, and that can only be fueled though by the passion, right?
Mhm.
And either getting away from pain, going towards pleasure, combination of
Mhm.
both, passionate about the product that you were creating.
Yes.
You can't just do that just because you can't maintain that type of schedule just out of thin air. And a lot of people don't understand that. Okay, if you're going to do this, be ready, buckle up.
Yeah.
And, so February 2017, you launched it, High Speed Daddy, as you mentioned. So where did that concept come from?
The word itself, high speed daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I was trying to come up with a brand name, and I knew from the beginning I didn't want to just sell a product. I wanted to create a brand. I wanted there to be a mission behind a brand. I wanted to help men provide, protect, and connect. I wanted to make sure they showed up the best versions of themselves for their family and loved ones, right? So what would it mean to be the most coolest connected dad around? What would that mean? So in the military, we used to have a term for people that were the best of the best, the special forces, the Army Rangers, the guys that go to all the hoo-ah or really cool schools. Sometimes the guys are really good at PT, at physical training, things like that. You would call them high speed. All right. Hey, look at that high speed. And there's kind of like a little sarcasm built into it. But at the same time, it's like this guy's doing high speed stuff, which means they're doing really fun, really kick ass, really cool stuff. So I kind of merged that together with daddy. So you had high speed daddy, and daddy's being the best version of himself, being the best out there, being the special forces, the operators, the Army Rangers and stuff like that, and trying to be the best versions. And I merged that together. And what kind of locked it in was I was running, I ran the name past my family. And this is something that not a lot of people do, is close off when you're an entrepreneur. You don't want to tell others what you're doing because you're afraid of what they're going to say.
Yeah.
And guess what? There will be naysayers. And yes, I had naysayers. My father was one of them. You're not making the right decision. I don't know if, you should do this. You're stepping away from security. You got a 3 and a 1-year-old. How are you going to pay your bills? That's just their fear-based reactions and mentality. And that's okay. People are okay to have that. Now, what do you do to protect yourself? And that's a whole different story. And put up your wall. Or just accept them for having that fear, which is natural. But I had let my family know. I wanted everyone to know. I wanted to be Mr. Recognition around this stuff because I'm going to lead a change here. But I told my sister about this. I said, I'm thinking about calling it High Speed Daddy. And she's like, okay, would you do any letters around that, like an HSD or something? I'm like, yeah, that could be kind of cool, HSD, High Speed Daddy. She's like, okay, because HSD, Haley, Sadie, Dominic, which was my wife and my 2 kids' names at that time. And that locked it in because sometimes higher powers, God, whoever it may be, puts things in front of you, that you just need to realize that someone's leading you in a way to do something. And at that point, that was one of those signs that came and hit me right in the face and went, yep, it's High Speed Daddy. Yep. Went and trademarked it on spot. Like we moved forward. So that was really cool coming up with that name and how that got locked in.
Yeah. See, I don't think I knew that aspect of it either. With the acronym, it is, man. It's like an invisible string kind of just guiding you if you decide to follow it.
Exactly.
So you come up with High Speed Daddy. First product is what?
First product is a diaper bag, which is what I was intended to do, right? And that's what kicked off everything. I had the idea for a product before I did the name, before I did, put everything together into the pot and realized I wanted to create this massive brand, and have this strong power and mission and meaning behind it to help dads and give them more confidence and to make them part of the equation and, big ass goals, right? Reduce divorce rates, reduce, child abuse, things along those lines, which is, what our huge major missions are, right? But, you know, having that diaper bag was that first thing that came to mind. And this wasn't something that just popped in my head. I went searching for a product. And through a podcast I was listening to at one point on how to develop and do idea generation for physical products, said write a touch list or create a touch list, which is something you write down on a piece of paper. You wake up the first thing in the morning that you touch to the last thing that you touch before you go to bed. And you're going to have hundreds of items on this piece of paper. And then you narrow that paper down based upon passions, based upon all sorts of criteria to make you come down to something you're passionate about. You solve a problem there's a need for, and all that stuff. And basically what I touched, one of the things I touched during that day was the diaper bag that I was using for my kids, which was not a diaper bag. It was an Army assault pack because I didn't want to carry around personally a flowery purple Coach bag or something along those lines that my wife was using. Now it still had all the amenities and, insulated bottle holders and a diaper changing mat and a special pouch for wipes and stuff like that, that my wife's bag had. I didn't have that in the backpack I was carrying around, but I converted my backpack to have all that stuff. And I said, well, what if I had an Army backpack that actually had all those pouches and had all that stuff designed into it and create a military looking diaper bag? Now, at the time, I called it something else, which I can't do anymore because it's a trademark term that I've gone back and forth with a competitor of mine on. And that's just part of business. It is what it is. But, I decided that, I wanted to go forward with this military themed diaper bag for cool, high speed dads, and basically it would be a daddy diaper bag. And it's made of the same military materials that I used when I was in the Army, 600 denier, waterproof polyester and YKK zippers. And, it had this Carhartt looking, for those people who are trying to like think of something, hiking bag looking, tension straps, pockets galore to put all your stuff, insulated pocket stroller straps, all those things I built into it. And, I went heavy into product research on what's out there right now. What do people like about what's out there right now? What do people not like about what's out there right now that are just in our little niche of military themed diaper bags, which there were a couple players at the time. And then in the broader market of diaper bags in general. And this was the niche that I was going to start out in, knowing that I would then launch other products down the line, but this was going to be number one.
Yeah, and that's for people that haven't seen it. Obviously, we'll give them where they can find it. Oh, it's awesome, guys. You can use it. I mean, I use it for work. I think we got 3 of them, and then we got coolers and whoopee, and it's just so cool. It's really high quality stuff too. It's not like you're saying it's military grade. It's cool. It's as a dad, you can use it for work. You can use it.
It's when it comes down to it, it's a multifunctional backpack. That's what we say, that you can use it for multitudes of things. And we have people that aren't even dads that buy our stuff all the time because it looks really cool and it's functional, right? And it's got insulated bottle pockets to, if you're a dad or you have a new baby, you put milk in, or you can fit beer in the sides, water in the sides, stuff like that. It's got pockets galore. Like I said, it's waterproof. So all these cool things about it that you can just use as a regular backpack. People that use it for gym bags, work bags, hiking bags, hunting bags, rock climbing, all multitudes, fishing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
all different things.
Really awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah. So that was just product number one that we moved forward with.
So how many products you up to now?
With color variations or just product lines?
Go product lines and then the color variations.
I think we have 4 main product lines, and then we have some accessories off of those. Each one of those 4 has 6 color variations. And then our lunch bags have different sizes built into them as well. So let's see, I think, let's say just how we have it listed on the website and Amazon, I think we're give or take around 75 SKUs or so.
Wow.
Individual products with color variations.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got a few.
That's great, man.
And it's, hey, that doesn't all just happen at once. I know people are like, where do you get the money to do all that and blah, blah, blah. I started with 1 product in 2 colors and then just use cash flow and reinvested.
Yeah.
and just built it off of there. 4 years later, that this is what we have.
Yeah. And it's fantastic. And 4 years even is, I mean, the speed at, no, which you did this is incredible. Not to give any financial information, but look, you were able to move into your dream house,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, I'll tell people you're on what, 15, 16 acres,
Yeah. Mhm.
and it's just awesome to see. Yeah, I know the business is crushing it. And of course, you got struggles, but that's when you're growing, right? You're
Mhm.
trying to
Yep.
grow, you get to the next level, and you're probably the best in I would say, which you're doing as far as the military grade diaper bag,
Mhm.
that is the best in the world. I know you have another few competitors, but you're who come. I don't even know the other ones, to be honest with you.
That's okay. We challenge each other. That's what it is. You got to have
Yeah,
competition to help you grow, right?
yeah,
So, if you didn't have another gym, and you thought your own, you would not try to push the
yeah,
limits or push the boundaries as much as you do,
yeah,
right? To try to keep the personnel and the people that you have, not just consumers or customers or the people that join your community, but the people that work for you as well, right?
yeah,
So, that's things. And I view it not as, oh, we have someone that's trying to do this now and they're going to take a piece of the pie. I view it as a challenge,
yeah.
and that helps us grow.
Yeah.
And there's things that, that I really like about that as well. It keeps the pressure on, it keeps the motivation going. What's next and what do I have to do to keep up? And that helps me develop, because life for me, I feel life is about progression
Yeah.
and getting better and constantly improving. And that's something that came out of my previous job a little bit is a term we used to use called kaizen, which is a Japanese term for continuous improvement. Um, and that's what I feel life is always about, and never being satisfied. And this is something that my father would tell me about my grandfather, coming back around again. Like your grandfather was never satisfied, Craig. He's insatiable. Now there's downsides to that, obviously, because it's hard to be present and appreciate what you have and what you've done. But you have to try to find that balance of doing those things, to move forward. And one of the things that I'm very proud of is that without showboating, or sounding big headed and conceited, like I know we could be so much further down the line. I think we could easily be an 8-figure company right now, and charging hard ahead. But I designed this as a lifestyle business so that I could stay home and hang out with my kids and raise my family the way I want to raise them, and not pass them off to full-time daycare. Now, if that's your choice, that's cool. It's just not the choice that I wanted, right?
Mm.
I wanted to be around. So this is like the evolution of what I feel like my family is, and me being able to help and and make abundance to give back, uh, philanthropic wise.
Yeah.
So to do things along those lines. Like I'm I work 2 to 4 hours a day. I pay a lot of other people to make up the hours that I don't put in. I have a big team, a lot of contractors, things along those lines. But that's so that I can keep this lifestyle business, so I can stay at home with the kids, so I can maintain this. But I still get my hours in. If I, that's an average. There's days that I work 8, 10, 12 hours a day. I work all hours of the night again. If I have, this Black Friday's coming up, to do things along those lines, to get in line and prepared for that, or fires that happen all the time,
Sure.
so, do that. But on average, I'd like to work the minimum, because that's how I want to balance my life.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm okay keeping things here and not having to go crazy up there, so that I can maintain that level of life. But this is where I am right now, and my
Yeah.
kids are young. I've got a 7, 5, and a 2-year-old. Like, this is what I have to do in order to spend time at home. And I hope the kids appreciate that when they grow up and they see that and they realize, like, this isn't normal.
Yeah.
This is not normal. Before, I was working 8, 10 hours a day, sometimes more, and traveling for work. And then I'd even see my kids less because I was traveling for military a lot at that time. I'm now since out of the military. There's a part of me that wishes I was still in, but I knew that this was the evolution and part of the continuous improvement and the plan to move forward. That if I wanted to stay at home with my family and kids, that I would eventually have to leave the military.
Yeah.
So,
And it's something's coming to mind as you're saying this. I actually taught a goal setting workshop last night, and one of the things I always teach, which reminds me of you, is the goal is to keep the goal the goal.
yep.
So it'd be
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yep.
right. It'd be easy
Yeah.
as, yeah, I got this. Let me go for that 8 figures right
Yeah,
now. But then all of a sudden, that wasn't the original goal, you know.
correct.
Okay, but right,
And that's tough. And that's
yeah,
tough,
very tough.
because you have to pull the reins back a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's, you want that snowball to keep growing, but you have to slow it down a little bit. You have to realize what's going on, and what the actual end game is. And, it's hard, because it's easy to chase the money.
yeah,
Um, and, I was doing that in corporate and whatnot, and it led me down a bad path. But, here it's okay. Things are good. We can have them grow, but let's grow a little bit more strategically. Let's grow a little bit smarter. Let's do that, but keeping the goal, like you said, this is what it is. I mean, I still have business goals. We will become an 8 figure company,
mhm,
so we're gonna do that.
yeah,
We'll see what goes on next, whether we keep it at there or we hit that certain threshold, and then it's time to sell to private equity or whatever it may be. But for now, I know that I've had the last 4 years at home, my kids, enjoying time, running them around, and nothing can pay money. There's no amount of money to give that back, right?
yeah,
That I've spent so much time with them. Then it's, like me and you and a whole bunch of other moms picking up kids at daycare, right? Like there's not a better feeling than that when you're like,
yeah,
oh, what is, and letting everyone wonder, like, what does he do,
yeah,
for a living? He must be a bum, or he doesn't have a job, or this and that. I'm like, yeah, if you only knew that I'm working right now, I'm making money now because I don't trade time for money anymore.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
That, like, I don't want to say what I've built and what we've built, my team, um, is, I don't want to say it's passive income, but it's close enough that I don't have to put
Hundred-
in hours to receive pay. You know,
shoot,
per se, I still have to get hours in and do certain things. I have to check in with my team, and there's certain strategic decisions we have to make, and their strategy around it. I mean, I am still an operator in my business. I own the business, but I'm still an operator in the business. If I were to go away today, business would have trouble, but that's part of the evolution. That's
yeah,
part of the setting up. That's part of getting people in strategic positions to take over certain responsibilities so that you can eventually work your way out of the
yeah,
business or still be involved in the business, just in certain aspects, right?
yeah,
Such as Newell Strength. You're like, I love marketing. I want
yeah,
to do the marketing.
yeah,
Hey man, I love the financials in our business. I love looking at the figures. I like the data and this and that, and moving things around and figuring out how to rob Peter to pay Paul, and all that fun stuff. I love playing around with that stuff until I get to a point where maybe I don't want to do that, and then have to hire a CFO.
yeah.
So
That's great, man. It's a lot of stuff there, man. So we're obviously going to have to do a part two of this sooner rather than later. But I want to wrap up before we tell people where they can get in touch with you and find out more about High Speed Daddy. A couple just quick questions.
mhm.
What is you were showing me a book beforehand, so I know you're an avid reader just from our talks.
Mhm.
What's your favorite book? When I said what's your like, what
Ooh.
comes to mind?
Oh man, that's a tough one. That's a
And
real
maybe it's
tough one.
not your favorite, but like most like a super impactful book. So I won't.
We were talking about it a little bit right before this, actually, being the connector and stuff like you were saying. I love The Go Giver,
Yeah, right.
by Bob Berg. Bob Berg, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, the premise around that is, if, you, you give enough people what they want, you'll get what you want, essentially, right?
yeah,
Stop thinking about yourself and think about others, and you solving their problems and helping them out. You help enough people, you build the community and the loyalty, and they'll stick around to help you, right?
yeah.
It's kind of like a karma play on it
It
a
is.
little bit. I really enjoy that one.
Yeah, right.
That was good, because I think there's a great lesson built around that as well. Because every time I start to get in my head and stressed and anxiety, about this or that going on, I'm thinking about myself too much.
Mhm.
I'm not thinking about others, or just being appreciative and grateful for what I have. And, I don't like playing a comparison game, because that can lead you down different routes. But at times or place, compare yourself to, the, or your family, to maybe a family that lives in Africa right now, that's figuring out how many grains of rice they're going to eat today,
Yeah,
things like that. Like, then when you play that comparison game, then it puts things in perspective on where you are and the problems you have and how minuscule they are in the grand scheme of things, right?
yeah,
So, I'd say that book is probably
yeah. And it's such
one of the good ones.
it is.
I got a whole list of books, just like you do.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so it's I'll have to one day I'll put them in ranking order
yeah.
and write some excerpts on them
I
or
just
something
I
like
just
that.
did that for the Cal Newell website. I put out my 10. It's not out yet, but the 10 top books.
All time favorites. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing that list. Yeah.
yeah. I think you like. How about 5 years from now? What do you see for your life?
Okay, so the kids are going to be in school a little bit more often. Um, you know, it's a weird thing for me. Everything comes back to my kids, right? You know, like right now, I'm like, I love spending the time with the kids, but at the same time, I wish I had a little bit more freedom to do some things. But then I kind of reel myself back in. My son is 7. I have maybe 10 more years with him
Yeah,
before he's up and out, or his mind is just on way other things besides the influence that dad can impart on him, right? 10 years is not a lot of time because 7 years has gone by like that.
mhm.
You know, so 5 years down the line, he'll be 12. He's in sports full time, hanging out with his friends, riding bikes around, and he's going to start trickling away more and more, right? So it's tough. I think high speed daddy will continue on the path. Hoping in 5 years, our 5 year plan is to be where we want to be and have that decision on what we want to do next. We've decided like what that number is that we want to get to, profit wise, income wise, revenue wise for the business. It's just depending on the next step on what we want to do. And I think there's things we'll have to see in life where we are at that point. But come back to what you're saying, keep the goal, right? So I kind of know where I want to go, once we hit that point. Um, but I want to do some more traveling. My wife and I enjoyed traveling a lot before we had kids. I want to, and that's including the kids. I want to start getting the kids around and, maybe tour the US, get an RV, something along those lines. I know with the recent events and pandemic and stuff, all that's harder these days, but there's certain things that, there are certain things that you can do. There's nothing says you can't
Yeah,
hop in an RV and go and sleep in the middle of the woods in Washington State somewhere, right?
yeah. Right on, man.
So
Uh, all right, last one before we tell people where to find you. If you were to go back to 20-year-old Craig, what advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now?
get started sooner, right? Um,
Good.
it's I would say that, but I needed those whatever it was, 12 years, 15 years of experience to help me to get to where I am now. That wasn't my time when I was 21, right?
Mhm.
I would honestly just tell myself, keep doing what you're doing because I love my life.
Yeah,
I've had a very great life, up to this point. And if something happened tomorrow, I would be disappointed, but I would know that I lived a great life and I
yeah,
did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, with how I was supposed to do it. And I was successful in a lot of people's eyes. And at this point now I'm successful in my own eyes. Right.
yeah,
I would say continue on the path and have faith that things will work out how they're supposed to.
yeah. It's great advice, man. Great advice. I'm sure there's going to be some young people that eventually listen to this, so hopefully they take that to heart.
Yep. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen. Don't
So,
rush the process.
yeah, yeah. It's no overnight success.
There you go.
Where can people find out more about, like, where do you prefer them to go for High Speed Daddy, or if people just even have a question they want to shoot you a mess, like what's the best
Oh
way
yeah.
to get in touch
Yep.
with you? And
So all over the place at High Speed Daddy, right? So if you want to email me direct, I accept all emails. That's no problem. And I return all emails same day. Craig at highspeeddaddy.com. You want to check out our gear, highspeeddaddy.com. You want to go check out what we're putting out on social. We have great stuff we put out there on Facebook and Instagram at High Speed Daddy. We've got great content we put out through a blog over at our website, highspeeddaddy.com. Lots of value added stuff. Get on our email list. We send out weekly emails. We do lives every week. We put out a ton of value because we're about the mission on helping men become better versions of themselves. And whether someone buys a product from me or not, I'm still about the mission of helping you, right?
yeah,
If you've got a problem, come see us. We're a veteran-based, veteran-owned, organization, and we give back to our own, we give back to others. We're about, like I said, the mission and the cause.
yeah, right on, man. That's great, man. This has been entertaining and inspiring, man. I know people will get a lot out of this. I'll put all that stuff in the show notes, and yeah, man, just keep up the great work, dude.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me on. This is great. And people, please keep following Kyle. Keep checking out his stuff. He's got lots of great things going on. He's got lots of great stuff in the pipeline. So make
Yeah.
sure you continue and follow up. And we'll go from there. Hopefully, we'll do a round 2 and
Oh yeah,
great stuff to talk about.
for sure, man. Hey, so let me just bring this to a stop. And